Let's talk about microphones available at the MMU studio. But first, let's have an overview of all the microphones available. Take a look. Now, we will start with the Sony PCM D50 recorders. They are basically field recorders, but as you've seen, they are available at the recording studio. These recorders are mostly used in field operations, and they have three pickup patterns. The first one, they are super directional. That means they pick sounds from a specific angle. Number two, they are omnidirectional, which means they can pick sounds from all angles. And number three, they are unidirectional, which means they can pick several sounds but from one direction. Now, an interesting thing about these recorders is that they have two condenser microphones that can be angled, which means they can be adjusted. Sometimes they form an X. Many experts call it the XY angling. They can be angled in order to pick the several types of pickup patterns that we've talked about. Number two, we have the boom microphones, as you've seen them. The boom microphones have a very specific pickup pattern. They are called the hypercardioid pickup patterns. And when we talk about the hypercardioid pickup patterns, it speaks to the fact that they pick sounds from one direction, specifically from the front. Now, the boom microphones are mostly used in filming, and they are used in outdoor situations, and they have to pick specific sounds they are intended to pick without picking the background noise. That is why they are hypercardioid. When I talk about cardioid, I mean they pick sounds from the front above. And as we will be talking about other condenser microphones, I'll explain this further. Another term that can be used to describe their pickup patterns is a shotgun, which means they can pick sounds from a certain distance, but they pick specific sounds. Now, let's move to the next type of microphones. We have the lapel microphones, and they are fixed in the lapel. They are fixed here, and one advantage of the lapel microphones is that they have the cardioid, not the hypercardioid, the cardioid pickup patterns, which means again they pick sounds from the top. And interestingly, when you're using a lapel microphone, you have to be very careful. Now, I want you to watch this video of a certain interview that happened recently, and the lapel microphone was being used, but it was not being used correctly. Take a look.
Na sisi tumekubali makosa yetu ya kwamba Uhuru Kenyatta alikuwa ametuambia huyu William Ruto ni mtu si mtu mzuri na atatuhangaisha. Kwa hivyo yeye ndiye alikuwa amewatuma. Anasema Uhuru Kenyatta alikuwa ametuambia ya kwamba huyu Ruto mkichagua mtakuwa na shida.
Now, have you heard all those noises? When this interviewee was speaking, he was tapping the lapel microphone, and we can hear a lot of noises. That is because this individual was not well instructed. So you have to be very careful when using the lapel microphone. And when we talk about lapel microphones, some are wireless and some are wired. Wireless lapel microphones are used, they normally use the radio signal. They are used in order to allow when there is a lot of movement. That is when you use the wireless. But the wired ones can be used when there is no movement at all. Now, let's move to the next microphones. We have the condenser microphones, and I mentioned earlier the condenser microphones, but in this instance, I'm talking about the condenser microphones used in the studio, these ones. Now, these condenser microphones have the cardioid I've talked about this countless times. The cardioid picker patterns, which means again they pick sounds from the top. They can also some condenser microphones used in the studio have the omnidirectional picker patterns, which means they can pick sounds around across all directions. But here specifically these ones used in the studio in radio setup have the cardioid picker patterns. Now let's move to the next. Now because of logistical challenges, I could not take a picture directly from the studio, but these are the handheld microphones. They are also available at the studio. And the handheld microphones, these are most common. They are used in churches, they are used in, and they are also used in studios, specifically by journalists when they are doing their PTCs, piece to camera. When you're signing out, you use these ones, and these ones can have omnidirectional picker patterns, and they can also have the cardioid picker patterns. And as I mentioned earlier, the cardioid picks the sound from the top. Finally, let's talk about what I'm using right now. Despite the fact this is not a studio, I will talk about this. These are the MEMS microphone, micro electromechanical systems. They are micro, they are so tiny, and they have one specific pickup pattern. They are omnidirectional, which means they pick sounds from all directions. However, some advanced phones, and like this one, use the cardioid pickup patterns. Now, those are the available microphones in the studio, and they are used in specific setups. Thank you so much for watching.